Alright, well, looks like I got everything figured out, squared away, so all I have to do is wait for Chris K, the film guy, to show up, and I can begin filming. So...
Three hours later.
Get your hind end over here, comma, unless you want to get busted right in the mush, period.
Three hours later.
Alright, let's see. Oh, really? Really? So apparently, it's just hilarious to keep me waiting. Put me on scene? Put me on scene. You obviously sat there and watched it, and you think it's just funny. You think it's a big, fat, ha-ha, silly little joke. Well, is somebody ready to meet their maker? Alright, come on out. Where are you hiding? Show yourself. What is that?
Oh, Janitor Jake. Hello.
Now, which one are you supposed to be?
Oh, I'm Chris from the future, of an alternate timeline, Buck Buck.
Oh, you know Buck Buck?
Buck Buck. Buck Buck.
Buck Buck. Buck Buck. Buck Buck. Buck Buck. Buck Buck. Buck Buck. Buck Buck. Buck Buck. Buck Buck.
Hey, I do have to warn you about something.
Uh-oh.
I know. Hey, you do remember that old Bubsy demon, right?
Yeah, I remember. Because there was so much hate for all the Bubsy games, all that hate manifested itself into a demonic spirit and went out and possessed Chris K, the film guy. Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, good old Chris K got himself possessed again. I did send him the schematics to a time machine, and I think he used it to travel back in time to prevent the existence of Bubsy.
You mean this little guy?
However, you won't be able to use that.
Well, poo-poo, huh?
I know. See, Chris did not put enough oil in there, and seized the engine. He burnt out the components, so you would have to build the whole thing from scratch.
Well, looks like I gotta do it the hard way then. Jeez, terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Well, what are you gonna do?
Well, I'm gonna have to rip a hole in space-time itself.
Oh, I don't know, Janitor Jake. That's gonna require lots and lots of power.
Look, I already know this. Why do you think I got Dr. Pepper and Slim Jims? Jeez. So you're just gonna have to give me a minute, alright? Good. More here. Wow. Cool. Oh, well, that filled the belly.
Awesome. Well, I got stuff I gotta do, so I'll see you later. Good luck finding him.
Alright, here we go. As good a spot as any, I guess. Ooh. Ooh, it's a little tough.
Do we have an understanding?
Yeah.
Good. Because if I have to come back here, Bubsy won't be the only thing I'll destroy.
Oh, Mikey. Hey, what do you think you're doing? Take that out of the trash right now.
Okay, I'll do it if you want.
Now, you thought he was scary? Huh. If I go back to the future and there is no Bubsy, I'll show you what scary is all about. You got me?
Yeah.
Good. Terrible. Oh. Absolutely terrible. Ooh. What's up, everyone? Janitor Jake here. Now see, I have been wanting to play Bubsy, Paws on Fire for quite a spell. And recently I was finally able to purchase it and actually play the son of a gun. So, without wasting any more time, let's get right to the review, shall we? Now originally, I wanted to pick up the limited edition on the PS4. However, I did not have time to do that and just bought it digitally. So I won't be reviewing any of the goodies that came with the physical release, just the game itself. So what do I think of the game? Well, actually, I think it's pretty meh. I mean, seriously, they could have done so many awesome things with this game, but they decided to poo-poo on it and make it very underwhelming. Oh. The basic storyline is that Bubsy, along with his niece and nephew, Terry and his buddies Arnold the Armadillo and Virgil the Vole, are farting around the 14th annual Yarn Ball, when suddenly Polly and Esther show up via television set and tell Bubsy that Oinker P. Ham has returned and is stealing all the animals throughout the universe to open his own zoo. And to help Bubsy, they are sending in their own Wooly to fight alongside him.
Oh, for the love of it.
Now, when I first heard this, I got super excited. Oinker P. Ham was in the second game, Bubsy 2, where he created this amusement park museum thing called the Amazatorium by stealing history from history itself. And he required the help of Virgil the Vole. And this time, he's kind of doing the same thing. Instead of stealing history, he's stealing creatures. And instead of the Amazatorium, it's the Amazootorium. And this right here is where the lore actually stops. Because as far as I know, they don't have any of Oinker P. Ham's henchmen. Instead of seeing characters like Lambo, Jimmy Knuckles Hog, Ace the Flying Penguin, Jumping Hog, Billy the Kid, Sid the Vicious Shrew, and Paws the Gourmet Buzzard, we get nonsense like balloon frogs, balloon fish, metal mosquitoes, a bunch of sludge, and bumblebees. Which the bees make sense because the bumblebees have been in every Bubsy game up to this point. So they are pretty much a staple in the Bubsy franchise. But the enemy variety in this game is pretty much trash. All the other Bubsy games up to this point had tons of enemy variety, and that was the one thing I always loved about the franchise. But Bubsy Paws on Fire decided to drop a big turd on that idea. I'm also kind of confused about the areas themselves and what's going on, because right off the bat you start off in the village, which I think is really awesome because it's basically the same village from the first Bubsy game. However, what's really screwbally is when you get to the next area, it's a UFO base and research lab. Now the UFO stuff would make more sense if we were fighting the Woolies, but instead we're dealing with Oinker. So what the heck? The only tie-in is at the beginning when they say Oinker was in jail up in space. That's the only thing I can think of. And then in the research lab, they have all this green goop and gooey stuff all over, and the game does not explain why. The only reasonable explanation I can think of is that Oinker is using the research facility to take the animals that he's been stealing and combining them together. Gross. The third and final area is the Amaze-Zootorium, which actually makes sense since we're dealing with Oinker. And if you look at the different animals in the background, they look like a combination of 2 or more creatures. So like I said, maybe the research lab is where he was combining them, but then again, according to Polly and Esther, he's been going throughout the entire universe stealing animals. So I assumed that these creatures were from different planets. But like I said, the game doesn't explain jack diddly. And actually, this is where they could have had a really cool tie-in with Bubsy 3D. Oinker could have traveled to the Woolly's home planet of Rayon and stolen Woolly Mammoth, who was actually introduced in Bubsy 3D, and then he could have stuck him in the zoo. But that's just too good of an idea, I guess. Now, as far as the gameplay itself goes, like I said, it's actually pretty underwhelming. The game is an auto runner, which I have honestly never really played before. Now I know I have tried out some auto runners before on mobile devices back in like 2012, but that was really the last time I played an auto runner, unless you count Stampede for the Atari 2600. And what really stinks is that I want to sit back, relax, take my time, smell the roses, and explore the stages. But because the stupid thing is an auto runner, I'm not allowed to. And what makes it worse is that the areas look awesome. I would have loved to explore and look around the village, but too bad I guess. The only way to do that is to watch other people play. Now, if you're a fan of auto runners, I mean, maybe you think this is the greatest game in existence. I don't know. But for me personally, I don't want Bubsy games to be auto runners. I want side-scrolling platformers like the original 2 Bubsy games and Bubsy the Woolly Strike Back. Now, I will say, I do like the look, and I do like the colorfulness of the game, but I cannot sit back and enjoy it because the game is an auto runner. Now, even though the colors and everything are awesome, it's almost too awesome. Every time you collect a yarn ball or an atom or what have you, it creates these little effects. And if you're doing so good that you start catching on fire and stuff, everything can become extremely chaotic and make it really hard to see what's a hazard and what isn't, which then turns the game into memorization. Now, I mentioned Stampede for the Atari 2600 earlier, and that is how the game feels. It reminds me a lot of old Activision games that were released on the Atari. Games like Skiing, Dragster Freeway, and of course Stampede were based on getting to the end as quickly as possible, which requires you to memorize the stages. And that's how this game is once you get to the later stages. And apparently you have unlimited lives, so you don't have to worry about getting a game over. Now, the game talks a lot of smack about having 100 levels, which is honestly a complete joke. There are 3 areas, and each area has 9 main stages and 9 bonus stages for a total of 54 stages. However, you have to play each main stage 3 times. Once as Bubsy, once as Virgil, and once as Woolly, which according to them is over 100 levels. Which kind of plays off the way old Atari games were. In Air Sea Battle, they advertise having 27 different games on it, when it's basically only one game with slight variations made to it. That's the same kind of hogwash that they pull in Bubsy Paws on Fire. Now, even though I said I liked the look of the stages, they do get old real quick. Even though each area has 9 main stages, they decided to make every stage basically look exactly the same, which gets really old. I would have loved it if it was 4 stages per area and maybe had 7 different areas to change it up. Because after playing the first 4 stages of an area, I started feeling burnt out. And because the game actually has some challenge, it gets ridiculous to try to 100% complete the game. And I found myself after the first 4 stages not even bothering to try to do that because it would take forever. Now, if you're a fan of old school Atari games and auto runners, You might enjoy this, and you would definitely get tons of gameplay out of it if you try to 100% complete it. But for me personally, I don't really have that kind of time. Even the bonus stages were pretty lackluster. All it consists of is Arnold rolling through tunnels, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 style, collecting gems while avoiding glue and bags of farts. Now the gems are actually used as currency along with the yarn balls and stuff to purchase clothing and skins in the shoppery. Now as far as the boss battles go, I thought they looked pretty cool. Oh, and I actually enjoyed them! The first boss fight is against a UFO, which, like I said before, would make sense if I was dealing with the Woolies, but instead I'm dealing with Oinker P. Ham. So, whatever. The next boss is this big green goo monster with this gigantic eye you have to hit. It actually looks pretty cool, but then again, I don't understand the lore behind it. And the third and final boss is against good old Oinker P. Ham himself, which is really goofy because he no longer has legs. In the second game, Bubsy 2, he did have legs, but like I said, in Paws on Fire, they got the lore all screwed up. So is there even anything in this game that I actually like? Yeah, actually, as it turns out, there is a few things that I like. One of the things that I like is the very teeny tiny little bit of lore that they brought in from the Bubsy universe. I love that they brought back Terry and his buddies Virgil and Arnold. I also really enjoyed seeing the village, which I do believe is the same village from Bubsy 1. I thought it was pretty cool seeing Oinker make a comeback, and then see Polly and Esther not only return, but decide to join forces with Bubsy. I also enjoyed all the punny names for the stages like Murphy's Paw, Tales from the Crypt, Spool Runnings, Base Invaders, Gears of Wool, Jurassic Pork, and many, many more. And even during the loading screens, there were some pretty funny sayings as well. It was cool going to the shoppery to buy stuff, which was reminiscent of the shop in Bubsy 2. I also thought it was pretty fun playing as the Wooly, which was nice to help break up the monotony of the stages. And I honestly really do enjoy the look and colors and aesthetic of the game. Seeing all the pops and blips and bloops and all the fancy pants glowing was pretty awesome, but only when you're not trying to play through all that. Which of course brings up all the nonsensical hogwash that I do not like. Number one, there is too much chaos and too much nonsense visually going on, which makes it tough to concentrate on what I'm doing. And when I do concentrate, I miss out on a lot of the cool looking stuff in the background. I also hate the lack of enemy variety, which is one of the things the Bubsy franchise always did a great job with. They always had tons and tons of different enemies. However, this game decided to drop a big turd biscuit all over that idea. I also hate that they got rid of a lot of the power-ups, which were staples in the other Bubsy games, like t-shirts for extra lives, and invincibility bubbles and stuff. All the stages looking the same was garbage. Like I said before, they should have had only 4 stages per area and have 7 areas all different looking. They could have totally brought back the amusement park, or even run through a run-down dilapidated amazatorium from Bubsy 2. But of course, those ideas are just too good. Instead, let's make way for ooey gooey green goop land and a fancy schmancy UFO base. What a joke. Now, as far as being an auto runner, I'm sure it's pretty good. But Bubsy should not be an auto runner unless you're gonna put it on mobile. It should be a 2D side-scrolling platformer. End of story. Well, there you go. That was Bubsy Paws on Fire on the PS4 for you. Now, like I said, for me personally, this game was very, very mediocre at best. I felt like there was not a lot of variety, and they really, really skimped out on the actual lore in the Bubsy universe. Like my friend Maniac Matt told me, mediocrity is what's gonna kill the Bubsy franchise. You know what they need to do? They need to make a game like Bubsy, The Woolies Strike Back. Except bring in familiar places like the village, amusement park, and river area. And also have newer places like the UFO base and the research facility. Or don't do it. Don't do it. Like I said, those are just too good of ideas. Those ideas are just way too good. You know, here's what's funny. Chris himself does not need to time travel to get rid of Bubsy. Accolade and these goofy developers are gonna kill the Bubsy franchise themselves. So you know what? Just keep doing what you're doing. Make goofy auto runners and just do everything in existence with the exception of making a decent Bubsy game. Do everything else except make a good Bubsy game. So whatever. I'm done. I think I'm gonna skedaddle. So whatever. I'm Janitor Jake, and I will see you guys, hopefully, next time. Oh, terrible. Absolutely terrible. Alright, now where are those two most excellent movies? I know you're in here. Come on now.
Hello, Janitor Jake.
Oh. Now what in the world do you want? You stinking rotten dinklepuss?
I just thought I should let you know. I finally got rid of Bubsy. Forever.
No, you didn't, you big idiot! I literally just got done reviewing Paws on Fire.
That's impossible.
Actually, it's very possible. Here, let me explain. Now, there's a theory about time travel that actually states if you decide to travel back into time, you will actually create an alternate timeline. And I created my own theory to go along with that. What if you were able to create wormholes and actually travel between these different timelines? Yakety yak and blah 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 and a whole bunch of other nonsense and this and that and everything in between. And because of that nonsense, you would actually become your own grandmother, who just so happens to be your father's brother's nephew's cousin's former roommate.
No. It can't be. It's impossible.
No, it's all real. See, it's all true. It's all true. Very true. If you're gonna spew into this.
Oh, that was intense. It was like being trapped in a dream. I knew what was going on, but I couldn't do anything about it.
Look what you just did!
Oh.
You want me to rub your nose in it?
No.
Then you pick that up right now.
All right.
This is supposed to absorb hatred, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm gonna try something here. Hey! You worthless piece of slime! Whoa, crazy. Try something else. You ignorant, disgusting blob!
Wait, I got one. You have a weak electrochemical bond.
Get out of here! Get out of here with those goofy movie references. Hey! You come back and you take that with. Go get rid of that. Take it somewhere good, too. Terrible. Absolutely terrible.